Scarlet Witch is one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel Universe and arguably one of the most iconic characters thanks in no part to a recent surge in popularity with the MCU. When she was first revealed for Marvel Rivals, a lot of us were super excited to play her. Her design was very cool, she had sleek skins, her abilities and visual effects looked great, and she was an easily accessible character for players who are newer to the hero shooter genre. On paper, her kit and abilities seemed pretty strong and very well rounded for a DPS character. She had consistent damage with good range and auto aim, a decent evasive ability on a short cooldown, a stun, and her ultimate is a high damage nuke that can obliterate everything if left unchecked. Unfortunately though, her potential falls very short in practice and she's undoubtedly one of the worst duelists for competitive play, and this probably won't change unless she receives some major buffs or even a rework. While Wanda can be a noob stomper in quick play or low ranks where people aren't coordinated enough to deal with her, she's practically unplayable at mid to high ranks because of how limited she is of a character. Her primary and secondary fire doesn't do nearly enough damage compared to other duelists, and her ultimate can be countered by almost every other hero in the game. Not only this, there really isn't much of a skill ceiling to Scarlet Witch either, which makes it hard to get value out of her already limited kit. You pretty much hold primary fire on an enemy, throw some orbs at them for a bit of burst damage, and maybe fade if you need to engage or disengage. I guess the only skill or thinking required for her is her ultimate, which you want to channel behind cover for as long as possible to avoid being killed instantly. That's pretty much it. I feel like her playstyle isn't as satisfying as it could be, nor does it fulfill her character fantasy, so what needs to change? Well, unfortunately for a quote-unquote easy hero like Scarlet Witch, you can't really buff her too much because there would be no reason to play another duelist if she can do tons of damage without the mechanical skill requirements. In a lot of ways, she reminds me of Moira from Overwatch, who doesn't need aim but also has never been the absolute best character in their role either. If the devs were to buff Wanda without making her broken, I think the best way to do it would be to give her a bit more immediate damage to pressure enemies and either reduce the channeling time of her ultimate or make it less obvious that she was ulting to make it a bit more of a threat. Having said that, I think her kit does leave room for imagination, and I wish it had a bit more depth like some of the other heroes in the roster. This might be a bit of a hot take, but since hitboxes are more generous and shots feel easier to land in Rivals, I actually want them to remove the auto aim aspect of Scarlet Witch's primary fire and make it a projectile instead, so that there's a level of mechanical skill required but with higher payoff as well. Maybe they can rework her orbs into her primary fire so that she shoots long range projectiles that don't have fall off and does splash damage upon impact. Her secondary fire could then be changed into something that has a longer cooldown but also does much more burst damage. Perhaps something like Syndra's ult from League of Legends, where she can charge and send multiple orbs at a target to do significantly more damage. I think her stun for the most part is fine for the crowd control, but it's inconsistent and I think it should have a greater area of effect. As for her ultimate, I think this could be reworked into a much cooler ability that also applies a debuff to enemies. I was thinking something similar to what she does in WandaVision, where she completely transforms an area with her chaos magic, hexing everyone caught within it and applying a blind or vulnerability effect while also doing damage over time. These are just some simple ideas to rework her into a more dynamic and challenging hero with a bit more presence, but let me know if you have any rework ideas of your own in the comments. This brings me to the question of whether or not easier or lower skill characters should be weaker compared to others. I posed this question over on X, formerly known as Twitter, and a majority of people said that yes, they should not be top tier and that value should be tied to execution level. Nick says that it's hard to say, I think she should probably taper off at higher levels, but I feel like Wanda specifically plummets even mid games. She's only good in 1v1 scenarios, and even then she struggles if the opponent is even half competent. Saturn said yes, if you reach the ceiling of two different heroes and one has a much higher ceiling than the other, then the one with the higher ceiling should always be stronger and get more value when played at their ceiling. Cause then what's the point of not just picking the easier hero and getting the same value but 10 times easier? And what's the point of putting time into learning the harder character? There isn't any. Now, do I think easy heroes should just be kept trash tier just because they're easy? No, I don't agree with that either. On the other hand, Mr. Hale says, I feel like they should be equally scaled. At the end of the day, if you're choosing to play a harder character, that's your choice. After all, once you dedicate enough time to a character, you can play them as easily as you would one of the more simple characters. In addition, not everyone wants to be a tryhard. Everyone who plays the game is not trying to rank up or be the Ash Ketchum of Rivals. Characters who are more simple also lack the variability that the more complex ones do. As a result, they are already nerfed. Uneven Capri says no, this will make higher level play center around only a few specific high skill heroes that everyone will eventually get sick of. Instead of weaker, stronger, characters should be focused on filling a specific playstyle or niche. This will incentivize swapping heroes as needed. I think that these are some sensible takes, but I also think that just because a character is considered low skill, it shouldn't mean they are borderline unplayable either. In an ideal world, I think that every character should have their own form of skill expression, which would then enable them to provide value that's equal as other heroes. Obviously, it's impossible to put every character on the same equal playing field, but my point still stands, which is why I think a character like Scarlet Witch needs a rework to introduce more skill expression into a kit. Let me know what you guys think, and if you enjoyed this video, please click the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.